Welcome to the 33rd edition of Game On. If you're watching this on TV, then I hope you enjoyed our live coverage of the Bond Sioux opening ceremonies. Today we look ahead to Sunday's Super Bowl, where the Rams and Patriots face off in the 53rd installment of the event. I invited football expert Jon Bujold to discuss his thoughts on who would win, and we also talk about the blown calls that made the game what it is. Time to get started on this edition of Game On. TFC superstar Sebastian Giovinco is officially no longer a member of the Toronto-based soccer club. The highest paid player in the league during the 2018 season has come out and said that money is not the reason that the over a point per game player is leaving the MLS after being sold to the Saudi Arabian club Al Hilal FC on Wednesday. In each of the 4 years Giovinco was with the club, he was named to the All-Star team, won a Canadian Cup and also the MLS Championship during his tenure, on top of being the club's all-time leading scorer. 14-year NHL veteran Antoine Vermette has announced his retirement from pro hockey yesterday. The 36-year-old center amassed 515 points in 1,046 regular season games, starting his career with the Ottawa Senators and ending with the Anaheim Ducks. The Quebec native ranks 14th all-time in faceoffs won and leaves the game with a faceoff winning percentage over 56. And sticking with the NHL, the trades have been vamping up. The Penguins have acquired forwards Nick Bjugstad and former Hounds captain Jared McCann from the Panthers in exchange for forwards Derek Brassard and Riley Sheahan, along with a second-round pick and 2 fourth-round picks, all in the 2019 draft. The deal sees the Penguins give up on their experiment at making Brassard their third-line center and sees McCann presumably slot into the role. Only time will tell who won this trade. And another blockbuster trade went down, but this time it was out of the association. The Knicks accepted Kristaps Porzingis' request to be traded, sending him, Tim Hardaway Jr., Courtney Lee, and Trey Burke to the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for DeAndre Jordan, Dennis Smith Jr., Wesley Matthews, and 2 future first-round picks. The Mavericks unite good friends Porzingis and Dirk Nowitzki and also gives another option for breakout star Luka Doncic. The trade is one you make when you're confident in your team to do some damage come playoff time, so the 12th-placed Mavericks have some work to do. Welcome back to Game On, where the Super Bowl is taking place this Sunday, so we have to follow up with Jon Bujold, who's coming in to talk a little bit about the predictions we had him discussing earlier, and now how they kind of unfolded. Jon, thank you so much for coming back in.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So have you been enjoying the playoffs so far in the NFL?
Yeah, it's been a great postseason. Very few blowouts, a lot of entertaining storylines. Can't complain.
Very close games. Now, let's take a look. We only talked about the first round of games. You went one for 4, excuse me. So you got the Colts right,
yeah.
But you chose the Seahawks and the Cowboys won, the Ravens and the Chargers won, the Bears and the Eagles won. Do you need to defend your ego at all after hearing that?
Not defend, but there was something that happened in that round that I found really interesting. I kind of prefaced, by the way, the Eagles game. Okay. I said I have a hard time betting against Nick Foles.
Right.
I picked against him against my better judgment, but the San Diego game was interesting to me for one reason. I had mentioned that I thought Lamar Jackson was an interesting quarterback. He presents a lot of challenges. And I said that I predicted it would be Bill Belichick that figured him out. I didn't give Gus Bradley enough credit. He ran a really revolutionary concept against that style of offense where he had 7 defensive backs. So he was replacing linebackers with defensive backs, which is a huge cut in size and power, but it gives you speed and athleticism. And then he moved Darwin James, his star rookie safety, up to an edge, and essentially had him play QB spy from the defensive line. So that was really risky because it could have gone horribly bad. They had huge running backs on Baltimore who could have just trucked through that defense. It didn't end up happening. So I have to give kudos to San Diego. They had a pretty creative structure there. Absolutely.
And as I was poking a little bit of fun earlier, we're so close to picking the Super Bowl, right? You picked the losing side of both conference games in Kansas City and the New Orleans Saints. But as we were talking, maybe some calls could have changed the outcome of that game. I was also mentioning that Roger Goodell did have the power to overrule if he wanted to and say, you know what, that blown call in the New Orleans game, didn't like that, we got to restart it. But you were telling me a few different reasons why that wasn't going to be.
Yeah, I think if that was the game-defining moment, say that was the end of the game, that outcome determined the winner right there and then, I think he may have had to consider that as an option just for the public reputation. But when you talk about the expense of doing something like that and the controversy that goes with it, I think you have to consider the fact that that wasn't the end. New Orleans still kicked a field goal to give themselves the lead. They had a chance to stop the Rams on the final drive of the regulation. They couldn't. Game-tying field goal sends it to overtime. New Orleans had the ball first in the overtime, ended up turning over the ball, and then they couldn't stop the Rams again after that. So there were plenty of chances to make up for that mistake. I know it hurts. If I'm a Saints fan, I'm furious because even the refs admitted they blew the call.
Right.
I'd rather you just not admit it and let me believe that I have it right. But yeah, that game could have gone either way, and I don't think Roger Goodell had enough chips to make that decision.
Yeah, and I had to agree with you once you explained it that way too. But what are your thoughts on the players now? The players from the Saints that went to the Pro Bowl, they're wearing the shirts that say blown call and different things like that. I mean, come on, right?
It's a little bit over the top in my opinion, but at the same time, you work a long time to get to that point, not even just in that season, but your entire career for opportunities to go to the Super Bowl. So I think that there is a sense of feeling robbed, but there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to move on.
And the eventual winner of the Super Bowl now, do you think that the way that the conference games played out is going to play any effect or maybe kind of tarnish the reputation of that eventual Super Bowl winner?
I don't think that it will for the general football fan or for the broader NFL. If you look back to the tuck rule in Tom Brady's early years, Oakland Raiders fans are still upset about the tuck rule. They're the only fan base that I think hangs on to that tarnished reputation of that year's Super Bowl, because that was a conference final game too that could have swayed the future of those organizations. But if you're not a Saints fan, I think that you're going to get over it and look past it.
Hopefully, too.
Yeah.
So now most fans already know about the Patriots. They are arguably, or maybe not even arguably, the best dynasty that the NFL has seen in at least a lengthy amount of time. So what are the Rams going to have to do to overcome such a challenge, such a juggernaut in Tom Brady and the Patriots?
I think they have some interesting pieces. I think obviously Tom Brady has played with Aqib Talib, so I think he respects his ability to make plays. I don't know if they'll throw to Aqib Talib. If they do, it'll probably be a very structured game plan to do so. They have pieces that they can move around. Bill Belichick's one of the most creative minds when it comes to bringing in players who have specific roles. I think the Rams, what they have to do is they have to get Ndamukong Suh to complement Aaron Donald, because Aaron Donald can't do it all on his own. But if you have two defensive tackles who are collapsing the pocket, it's really hard to do your job as a quarterback. They have two really good corners. I don't think Marcus Peters is a number one anymore, but he doesn't need to be because Aqib Talib's on the other side.
Absolutely.
They're a good combination. That defense needs to be better than they've been this year. But as far as stopping the Patriots, you just have to play outstanding defense. And on offense, I think the Rams do have some good pieces. Sean McVay is obviously very creative, and Jared Goff turned his second half season woes into something really impressive in these playoffs, even without having Todd Gurley there to complement the offense with his injuries that he's battling. Jared Goff has gone back to his early season form, and the Patriots have just as much to worry about as the Rams defense.
And that's what I was about to get into. What are the Patriots? They seem so lighthearted going back to the Super Bowl. If you've seen their media stuff, they're just happy-go-lucky. They have no problems. It's not a big pressure to them. But what's something that they're going to need to really focus on to make sure that they can make sure that this is as easy going as they think it will be?
I think that they have to focus on C.J. Anderson. I know that it's really easy to assume that Todd Gurley isn't going to be healthy, and that if he doesn't play a lot in the game, that the running game is going to be obsolete. That hasn't been the case. C.J. Anderson really complements that defense or that offense very well. He fits into the play action system they like to run, and he's a downhill runner. He's not someone who's going to try and bounce outside, especially now. He's a little bit out of shape. He's been out of the game for a bit.
Right.
So he's going to be running between tackles. He's a very important piece, and I think that the Patriots know not to underestimate him, but you can't abandon the running game because the Rams are dangerous enough on the passing side of the offense without you giving them the running game to use as a support.
And when it comes to this game, I believe it said it features the largest age gap difference in between starting quarterbacks and the largest age gap between coaches for the Super Bowl as well. What's that going to change in the game?
I don't know how you predict that. In reality, there was a time where it was Bill Belichick and Tom Brady's first time as well.
That's very true.
And it really comes down to how you react. Is Sean McVay going to keep his composure and make the right call in big moments? He has a tendency to be a little bit outside the box. He tells his special teams coordinator a lot more than most coaches do to run trick plays or fakes. So they might use that late in the game. And it's like any other call. If you succeed,
Right.
you're considered a genius. If it fails, you're going to be scolded and considered the next Andy Reid who can't make big plays in big games until the time comes where you do make the big play, and then your whole reputation changes. So I think age and experience is just something that comes as a talking point. It really comes down to how you handle yourself in big moments. And for Sean McVay and Jared Goff, we haven't seen that happen yet.
They've got a first chance to impress us. Now, one quick stat I want to give you before we wrap up this interview. Tom Brady, the 2018 season, including the playoffs, his edge pressure when it comes to defense, he has a 118.7 passer rating. But with interior pressure, it drops down to 63.1, and the Rams defense leads the NFL in interior pressure rate at 16.6%.
Yep.
How much do we look into this?
I think you look into it a lot. Last time I was here, I spoke about that with guys like Tom Brady, Jared Goff, Drew Brees. They can ignore edge pressure because they're comfortable stepping up into the pocket and ignoring the noise behind them. But when you get in Tom Brady's face, it changes his whole dynamic. He likes to step up and make comfortable throws. He likes having time to wait for the routes to develop. We saw it in the 2 games where he faced the New York Giants in the Super Bowl back in the day. They moved over a couple of their defensive ends, actually, to D-tackle because they wanted interior pressure, and it worked. He was not the same against the Giants in that undefeated season in 2007. There's already history of him performing differently with interior pressure as opposed to edge pressure.
So give us your prediction. Final score of the game, who's taking home the trophy?
Final score, I'm going to go with 24-21 for the Patriots.
Okay.
And it's not because I think that they're a better team. It's just I have a healthy respect for them proving me wrong for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like betting against them
Will this
anymore.
be the first year Tom Brady's got to start using his other hand for rings now?
It might be. It could be,
Alrighty.
yeah.
John, thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciate
problem.
it. And we'll find out come Sunday the winner of the Super Bowl. More Game On after this. And that's it. Thanks for sticking with us at our special time of 8:30 tonight, but things will return to the normal 6:30 every Friday next week. Thank you everyone for sticking with it, and we will see you all again next week.